Good evening, Goeienaand, Liperile, Dumelang. So good to be with you again tonight. We have been crisscrossing the country, different provinces, preparing for the coming elections in few days' time. And we tonight, as we start, want to say to you, remain positive. Keep on believing that everything that the Lord has promised, He is well able to fulfill it. Now, before I share one or two things on my heart about this thought of all things that God has promised will happen, but on our side, we need to remain believing. Our faith is always challenged by the winds that are blowing, by our emotions, by what we are hearing, but we must choose that in spite of what we hear, in spite of what we see, we believe the word of the Lord. God watches over his word to perform it. All right, but before we look a little bit more into that, we want to greet you and to welcome you all and say thank you very much for tuning in tonight. Greetings. We will be obviously reading all your greetings, your salutations, and then my reliable, faithful co-pilot, Honorable Wayne Thring, will be coming on also to say hello. But before he comes on, let's see what you are saying. Who is the first one to say good evening? Oh, I almost said the prodigal son. Tabang Mushidi, Councillor Tabang Mushidi, saying good evening. He says good afternoon, Mr. President. And then we have Bernard Huthril, good evening from Watt 36, Devon North, to all the ACDP family. And then we have Palesa Yates from Ekuruleni saying, Dumela Murutimishwe. And then we have Kaz van der Bijlmeth saying, SOS, good evening to our leadership and fellow ACDP family. Warm greetings from the Meth family of Port Shepstone in the Ugu region. Evening, sir. Nora Mali says, evening, Mr. President, Deputy President, and ACDP family. Great to be together again. How true, how true, how true. Now, we have a person with a nickname, ACDP Mohali City, who is saying, good evening, President, and the entire ACDP team. Mohali City is within and ready to hear your wise words. Then we have Jamil Isop from eThekwini, who says, good evening, Honorable President, Deputy President, and ACDP family. The warmth of eThekwini is awaiting your presence on the 16th of May. We will be there on the 16th of May, Councillor. So, May Prince Law is saying, good evening, President and DP. So good to be with you again. May Prince Law from White River. The Lord bless White River, the people of White River. Then we have Joy Peterson, who's saying, good evening, Mr. President, and co-pilot and ACDP family. Shalom. John and Joy from CT Kapstadt. We're looking forward to tonight's meeting. Given Spiwe Matswane, he's saying, good evening to the incoming South African President, Reverend Kenneth Mishwe and Prudence Mabasa. He's saying, good evening, President and Deputy President, and the Holy Army of ACDP. You got it, Prudence. This is an army of God that should not retreat. Like the sons of Israel, when they were confused, though armed on the day of battle, they turned around. Now, before my colleague, my co-pilot comes on, I want to read a verse in the beginning and a verse at the end of chapter 13 of the book of Numbers. The Lord said to Moses, "Send some men to explore the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites. From each ancestral tribe, send one of its leaders." Now, the Lord says to his people, I want you to see, I want you to be a bit excited when you see what I have for you. Go and spy the land. You leaders, go and spy the land. And when you come back, influence the people. Tell the people, hey, that God has prepared for us is great. Let's go for it. Let's go for it. So the 12 went there to spy the land. Well, when they came back, out of the 12, only 2 believed what God said. The 10 said, we are not able. We are not able. The people are too strong for us. The 2 people who believed the word of the Lord, Joshua and Caleb, they said, it doesn't matter what we have seen. We all have seen exactly the same things, but we choose to believe the word of the Lord. We can read the same Bible, all of us, but some of us will choose to believe the word of the Lord. Now, let me just end by saying what the spokesperson here says, Caleb. Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, that's verse 30, we should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. God said it's given to us. So let's take possession of it. And then, but the men who had gone up with him said, we can't attack those people. They are stronger than we. And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land that they had explored. They said, the land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are of great size. We saw the Nephilim, who are the descendants of Enoch from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. As we get closer to the election date, I appeal to our members and supporters. Because of what you see promoted in the media and the opinion polls, what they are saying, some of them are saying, ACDP is nowhere to be seen. ACDP is still a less than 1% party. ACDP is going nowhere. While the ACDP, we are talking about a godly government. We want godly governance in the country. We want the godly government run by a cabinet full of men and women who love the Lord. Okay? So, I'm saying to you, don't worry about what they're saying. Don't worry about your reading. Continue working hard. Continue praying and continue working hard, knowing that the Lord has promised to bless the work of our hands. So when others are saying we are like grasshoppers, we are grasshoppers, these unbelievers, these uncircumcised Philistines know better than us. We know nothing about governance. I'm saying, okay. Believe the word of the Lord. All right? We are not going to be like those 10 spies who say, we look like grasshoppers. We are nothing. We can't do anything about this matter. Forgetting that greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. And forgetting also that the word of the Lord says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So remain positive, remain believing God. It's possible, it's possible, it's going to happen. We are going to have many, let me not mention numbers, figures, but I'm saying we're going to have many MPs and MPLs. Why? Because the Lord has to fulfill his word. As we continue meeting on these Tuesday nights, we are going to be sharing with you, giving you assurances and asking you not to fear anything, not to be discouraged by anybody or anything. You know, driving around, you realize last week you saw ACDP posters, this week you don't see them at all. Why are they removing our posters? Some of these people are concerned. Some of these people are worried. Some of these people obviously have heard the prophecies, and those prophecies are scaring them because they know that the ACDP is going to stop the parties. There are parties that organize, we are victorious, the ACDP is going to spoil their parties because God is going to intervene in this land that belongs to him. All right, having said that, my brothers and sisters, Banabesu, I'm going to allow my co-pilot to send his greetings. Two things. Firstly, he will be sharing his greetings with us. But secondly, he will be making a correction. We want to make a public correction to a mistake that was made by, I'm not sure whether it was a mistake or what was the reason or the motive, but it was reported and we saw on social media reportings that the ACDP supported a climate change bill on the 25th of April 2024. What is this climate change bill about? All right, the DP is going to speak on that because he spoke on behalf of Parliament. Sorry, he spoke on behalf of the ACDP in Parliament. And the ACDP did not support the climate change bill. I'm not sure whether it was a lie or it was a mistake, but the ACDP did not support the climate change bill. Okay, why didn't we support it? There are a number of reasons, but I'm going to allow the DP to tell us why we did not support this climate change bill. Obviously, one of the reasons we did not support that is because we do not support the call for South Africa to stop using coal. ACDP knows. We know very well that all major economies in the world, they relied on coal. They all started with coal. Our economy obviously is collapsing almost, is declining definitely, and we have been relying on coal, but there are some people who are now using the excuse that because of coal that makes pollution, we should stop using it and go for green energy. The ACDP obviously believes in both, but we will not agree with doing away with using coal. We will use clean technology, and we'll also use first-grade coal that we have in the country. Because what's happening for now, first-grade coal is being exported, it's going to Europe, and we get third grade, fourth grade, and we get what is not the best. So we believe in using coal that God has given us, and that's what we're going to do. That is why we can never support any call from anywhere in the world. UN, European Union, we will not support any call to do away with coal. A person like myself went to school with money that my mother got from baking cakes, magwinya. And magwinya, the best magwinya, okay, not like what we find in some of these superstores. The best magwinya should be made on hot coal. And that's what made us what we are today. That's why we'll defend the use of coal until the end. So now is the time to call on the DP to make that correction and tell us what he said in Parliament. We were there, we know what he said, all right? So there are people who are twisting our words. There are people who, if we are not careful, they are going to say, we said things we did not say. We support things we never supported, all right? So be attentive. If you can hear anybody saying ACDP said 1, 2, 3, our members of Parliament said 1, 2, 3, which in your heart of hearts, no, but this cannot be true. Please alert us so that we'll correct those mistakes and the lies and the propagandas that are said about the ACDP as soon as it is practically possible. So tonight, we are going to make this important correction about climate change bill. The ACDP did not support it. Okay, with those words, I'm saying, DP, my co-pilot, you are most welcome, sir. I'm now going to hand over the stage to you. I'm going to say, let the people know what you have to say and what you said in Parliament. But greet them first, and then let's go for it, sir.
Well, good evening, Mr. President, and also we want to greet all of our viewers, supporters, and those who have been just tuning in faithfully over the last few weeks, every Tuesday. We just want to appreciate the support that we've been receiving from each and every one of them, and even the ordinary South Africans who want to know more about the ACDP. We just want to say welcome and really appreciate your support over the last year or two where we've been doing these live broadcasts. I've been saying consistently that South Africa needs the African Christian Democratic Party, and the African Christian Democratic Party, the ACDP, needs you. If ever there was a time where those words and that saying is so important and so vital and true, it is now. And so I want to encourage you to let that particular truth resound throughout the country, that South Africa needs the African Christian Democratic Party. And indeed, over the last few months and the last few years, President, it's been a pleasure being your co-pilot and working alongside of you as I've taken the particular yoke at times as you've handed it over to me. So it's really been a pleasure, sir, working alongside of you. I think that some people may realize that in the last few months, there have been some fake news articles that have been going around, and in particular, including the ACDP or about the ACDP. The first one was from the leader of Al Jamaa, Mr. Hanif Hendricks, who in a podcast with Cape Conscious indicated that the ACDP was a part of other political parties that were wanting to introduce what he called a soft coup in South Africa, and that the ACDP was at the top of the list of these political parties, and that the ACDP was receiving funding and money from these international outside sources or countries from outside the USA and others, that the ACDP was receiving funding from these particular countries. Well, obviously that is furthest from the truth, far from the truth, and there's absolutely no truth in it at all. And so I had the opportunity to a rebuttal on Cape Conscious podcast, and they said that they themselves couldn't find anything, because Mr. Hendricks indicated that one just needs to go on Google and you'll find the information. And they indicated that they tried to search and found nothing. So that was one of the first that I had to deal with. And then recently, we've had another article which came from Twitter or X as it is, and maybe if our media team there could actually just put it up. It was an article which indicated on Twitter or on X, which indicated that the ACDP, it says Parliament passes the climate change bill on the 25th of April 2024, and dead silence from political parties and journalism. All 9 provinces voted in favor of the bill. The ANC, the DA, the EFF, IFP, ACDP, and it goes on to mention all of the other political parties. And it says, support for this bill is a complete disregard for our energy security. We will see manufacturing suffer, coal power plants shut down. We will see industry such as steel shut down. Water tariffs will soar. We will see mandatory vaccinations, and we will see them ban certain foods, and we will become a broken nation. Now, when this particular post was put out, I think initially it was from a lady on X or Twitter Ms. Vimlesh Rajbansi, and then we made contact with her. And when we made contact with her and we pointed out her error, she then corrected the post that she had put up. And I'm not sure if we can also see the correction that she put up. And the correction she puts up there, correction to my post, climate change bill. And she says, the ACDP opposed the bill in National Assembly. And she also posted an extract of my speech. Please read it, is what she says. This is what we expect of our elective representatives. And so very clearly, the ACDP will not compromise on its moral and principled stand that it has taken on numerous issues. And our president has very boldly spoken out about the ACDP not supporting organizations, unelected organizations like your World Health Organization and your World Economic Forums and WHO and WEF and such like. And so the ACDP is on record in terms of its position. So I want to just assure our viewers that our position has not changed and that the ACDP did not support the climate change bill. I want to just maybe read a few extracts from my speech, also just again to kind of reassure you that what the position of the ACDP was on that climate change bill. So I think right at the beginning, we recognize the intent of this particular bill, which is to develop an effective climate change response and a long-term just transition to low-carbon energy. We are also on record saying that, just transition is certainly not just. If one goes into the nuts and the bolts of the just transition to low-carbon, it very clearly isn't just, particularly when we look at what is happening at some of our coal-fired power stations. As the ACDP, yes, we commit to reducing harmful toxins and gases. We commit to restoring our ecosystems, air and waterways that are contaminated by pollutants. We commit to protecting our wildlife, our flora and our fauna, because we understand that this is our inalienable mandate given to us by God as custodians of our planet. But what we also, as the ACDP has said, we will not commit. This is what we can commit to, protecting our environment, our inalienable right. But what we will not commit to is the hypocrisy that the ruling party seems blind to, where much of the pressure to develop legislation regarding greenhouse gases and carbon emissions comes from the developed world, who during the period of industrialization, they paid scant regard to our environment, and they still continue to emit the lion's share of pollutants. Africa as a continent, all 54 countries on the African continent only emit 4% of the world's carbon emissions. And the lion's share still comes from your developed countries. And so these developed nations now seek to negate the industrialization of developing nations like South Africa by weaponizing the climate through legislation. Now, the European Union, as an example, will introduce a carbon border adjustment mechanism, which is a carbon border tax on greenhouse gas emissions of carbon-intensive products imported into the EU. This is another tax that the EU now is seeking to impose with their carbon border adjustment mechanism. It's another tax that they want to impose on countries like South Africa if we do not comply. If we do not comply to reducing so-called carbon emissions and shutting down our coal-fired power stations and such like. Now, simultaneously, they ask us to also shut down our coal-powered electricity stations, while hypocritically, and I pointed this out in my speech, hypocritically, our coal exports to the European Union has increased by some 720% in 2022-23. When we met with the European Union delegation, I represented the South African delegation, and I pointed this hypocrisy out to them. The leader from the European Union said, well, we have a war But the war is a Russian-Ukraine war. None of those particular countries are involved in the war currently. But on the other hand, South Africa has a war of its own. We have a war of poverty and a war of unemployment and a war of crime, a war of inequality. This is a war that South Africa faces. And so they have a war, and so they import now all of our best coal to Europe and firing up their coal-fired power stations and ask us to shut down our own. It is hypocritical. Some 8.5 billion was pledged for the just energy transition to South Africa. And to please their puppet masters that pull the finance strings, the ruling party decommissioned the Komati coal-fired power station. Komati Power Station was one of the most stable and efficient electricity power stations in South Africa, and it was shut down during one of the most severe parts of load shedding. We cannot continue in this direction. Now, we need to note that the United States still has 220 coal-fired power stations. India has 285 coal-fired power stations. China has 3,092 coal-fired power stations. And in the previous year or two, China built 2 coal power stations per week, 2 per week. And the intention is to continue to do that right up until 2030. China has realized that they need a mixed-use energy generating capacity, and coal is a part of that. We also believe that we cannot. South Africa still has some of the best coal deposits in the world. 200 years supply or 200 years worth of coal beneath our soil, 200 years worth, and some of the best in the world. We've got to use that for our advantage. Now, one of the other things with this climate change bill, which I mentioned in Parliament, is that it gives almost unfettered power to the minister to make regulations in relation to the managing of climate change response, including the determination of review, revision, compliance with, and the enforcement of an allocated carbon budget. The ACDP said no to this particular climate change bill. I concluded my speech by saying that as the ACDP, we will not succumb to the pressure from the unelected global elites like the World Economic Forum, who threaten another lockdown using climate change as a pretext. And that the ACDP calls on Parliament, calls on this House to place South Africans and our economy first. We also said that we need to have a balanced energy mix using our abundant coal, fossil fuels for the benefit of the unemployed, the indigent amongst us, and to do so responsibly using clean coal technology. So there you have it. That was the ACDP's response. And very clearly, the African Christian Democratic Party did not support the climate change bill. And so, in a sense, you've heard it from the horse's mouth. And we want just to ensure our supporters, we want to ensure South Africans that the ACDP has your safety, has your security at heart. The ACDP have South African citizens at heart. That we have heard the SOS from South Africans. We have heard the cry for service, for order and safety. And as the ACDP, indeed, we are here to serve. And to serve you is what we pledge to do. Mr. President, thank you. And the Lord bless you as you take over from here, sir.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that clarity, sir. We definitely have the interest of South Africans at heart. God will not give us a deposit of good quality coal that can be used for the next 200 years and we dump them just like that. No, we are not going to do that. Now, obviously, many countries are hypocrites. Look at what one of our members has said, who's an engineer, for example, okay? As a fact. Siseko Mdlogolo says, the hypocrisy is so blatant that Germany has dismantled their wind turbines built on a coal bed and started to use the same coal they are advocating that South Africa should forgo. All right? Germany was one of those who ran for the wind turbines and say, hey, we go green, we go green. Then they realized, this is not working. Coal is working better. So they dismantled, can you believe it? They dismantled all those turbines in order to increase the number of coal mines. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are not going to be deceived. Remember, we said, ons esni domni. Okay, ons esni domni. Now, to show you again how hypocritical people can be and how lying is flying all over South Africa about the ACDP from people who are trying to discredit us. KZN member is saying, leader is saying, in KZN, there is a rumor that the ACDP has supported the Bella Bill. Now we are transitioning, going to the Bella Bill, okay? Kaelitle Mangele says, in KZN, they said ACDP voted for the Bella Bill, which was blue lies, okay? It was blue lies. But now this is what is being said about the ACDP. Now we know that people who said that would equally even say it is the DA who did not support the Bella Bill. ACDP supported it, not the DA. Sorry, the DA did not support it, but ACDP supported it, which is a lie. Now, we have our colleague, Marisukers, who will be sharing with us about the truth regarding the Bella Bill. We have had protest marches. We have had participation like you cannot believe from ACDP members when there were public participation opportunities, where our members were saying, we don't want the Bella Bill, we don't want the Bella Bill. We do not want parents to lose their authority over their children. Children don't belong to the state, they belong to parents. Okay, ACDP is saying that. We are being attacked, people are lying about us, but whatever they are fearing is going to come upon them. They must ask Job, who had that experience. What I fear, Job said, has come upon me. So what these people who are lying about the ACDP are fearing is going to come upon them. The ACDP is growing. The ACDP is gaining favor because people are researching what we are saying, and they're saying your consistency is what has made us increase our respect for the ACDP. We are standing on principle and not on emotions. That's why we are consistent. Okay, now the Bella Bill, obviously, this week on Thursday, a number of regions will be having protest marches that we want to ask you to please support. We want to be out there in large numbers in support of the call to say, scrap this Bella Bill. We don't want it. We voted against it, and we don't want it. Why? Because parents of the children should not lose their authority over their children. So, Marie, it is your turn now to tell us how far we have progressed. What do you see as the outcome finally? Okay, we don't care whatever is going to happen. The truth is, if we do not succeed, we'll take this matter to court. We are going to join with others to take this matter to court. Why? Because the Bella Bill is bad news for South Africa. Welcome, Marie. The Lord bless you. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, and thank you to all our ACDP family, supporters, all our new people coming onto our platform to hear what our party is doing. Mr. President, yes, the Bella Bill, where we are in the process now, the bill is going for voting this coming Thursday, the 9th of May. And from there, the bill, if the ANC persist to vote for this bill, it will then be sent for concurrence to the National Assembly because there are cosmetic changes that has been made to the bill, and it will come back to us in the National Assembly. Let me talk about the journey of the Bella Bill. This has become one of the most contested bills in the public participation process since our democracy. It is one of the most engaged and biggest campaigns against the legislation. And this was really across the board feedback that we received. Steve mentioned this a couple of months ago in Parliament, and since then we have had many officials say it is the first time that they have seen the public so motivated against legislation. When we started the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill process in the National Assembly, there was the expectation, certainly from the governing party, that this legislation will smoothly flow through the engagement process in the committee as well as the public participation process. But right from the start of this process, in anticipation of the Bella Bill, the ACDP put together a strategy because, Mr. President, during our national conference in 2021, one of the key things that you again highlighted is the ACDP's fight for family and why that fight is so important in the context of our country and in the context of the kingdom of God and what God's design is for families and for nations. And so the Bella Bill, once the process started, it was very clear for us as the ACDP that the objective of this legislation is to further increase state control and overreach by the state in the education of children, and to marginalize parents as passengers in the education of their children. I am not going to go into the detail of the Bella Bill, but on the key issues upon which the ACDP opposed the bill. We opposed the bill because we are opposing state control. We stand for parental rights, and we absolutely stand for capable communities. What we have seen in the last 20 years of this administration and the current government that has been in power for 30 years is a slow erosion of values, of governance in all aspects. Now, when you look at family, it is the one unit that exemplifies governance. And we know this as a principle, spiritual principle, that if the home is in order, then the family is in order, the community is in order, and the nation is in order. And one of the biggest signs of the erosion of our society in South Africa is the gradual collapse of family. And at the core of that is the issue of parental authority, which is the second part of our slogan of order. The Bella Bill is against all the principles that I have mentioned now, but the most important one, which is putting parents in control of the education of their children. What we are doing right now in the process of this bill going to the NCOP is to unify our opposition against this bill by going on the 9th of May to all the provincial legislators in some provinces. At others, we are going to the education departments. But here in the Western Cape, we're actually going straight to the National Council of Provinces to show our opposition to this legislation. The Bella Bill becomes the doorway for gender ideology, for the promotion of abortion in our schools, and for undermining parental authority and rights when it comes to the medical treatment of children. And for this very reason, we say this bill needs to be challenged. Mr. President, on Thursday, we have the United Independent Movement, UIM, and the Freedom Front Plus joining the ACDP going towards the National Council of Provinces. In other provinces, we have, as in the Western Cape as well, we have homeschooling associations joining our picketing and our marches. On the 16th of May, some provinces whose approval has not gone through for the 9th are going to be mobilizing and having marches and picketing on the 16th of May, when the vote is on the floor of the National Assembly. It must be very clear to everyone. I saw a party that has been formed last year making a statement to their followers that they will stop the Bella Bill. They have no presentation in Parliament, and yet they make this audacious claim. The ACDP can absolutely stand on a record of what we have done to not only oppose legislation like the Bella Bill, but in over the last 30 years, what we have fought for in education. We must say to our members tonight that the fight that I have been a privilege to spearhead on behalf of an organization that stands for the Christian worldview is one that has been started way before me. It started in 1994 when this party went to Parliament to stand for the biblical worldview and fight for the Christian principles in democracy. The ACDP has championed homeschooling since 1994. We have championed the rights of family since 1994. The Bella Bill is really the doorway of the fight for what is going to be the direction of this country in education and in the future of our children. Because if a child can go as a out of your house in the morning as a girl and come to their school and be a male on the basis of their decision and their feelings, and the parents are totally left out of that part of their children's lives, as it's happening in the UK and in the US. This, Mr. President, is what we are fighting, because the Bella Bill is an administrative bill, but under disguise, it will give the authority in clause 39 for them to issue regulations in terms of learner pregnancy and learner admission. And the ACDP is very aware of what this fight is really about in terms of what is deemed progressive, but it is regressive for family. It is regressive for our society, because it is an ideology that absolutely undermines family.
Well done. You have been working very, very hard. Some positive comments that are coming that are also saying, halala, halala, Marie Sugers. Well done, well done. Now, Diane Lass has a big punch now coming. She says, Bella Bill is Jezebel, homewrecker bill. Well said, Diane. Okay, it's a homewrecker. Then we have Brett Sassoons, who says, the Bella Bill will not allow children to be educated by their parents or for parents to voice concerns in public schools. Yeah, Brett, you are correct. Mario Brink, we appreciate our MP Suker's hard and dedicated work against this Bella Bill. Victory is ours. It's very, very true. And Pamela Sarah says the Bella Bill is from the pit of hell. That is hard. You are correct. I like that. And then ACDP Mohali City says, we do not agree with the Bella Bill. Our children, our authority. We will not be bullied into not being part of our children's lives. Never. I agree. Totally, we agree with you. All right. Well done, MP Marisukers. We appreciate your hard work against the Bella Bill. God bless you. That is Marie Lutheran. Okay, Marie, I'm sure you are encouraged to hear all these positive messages of appreciation. Indeed, Marie has done extremely Well, we thank God for her. Let's make sure that all provinces have people going to their legislatures saying, ACDP says no, no, no to the Bella bill. It must not see the light of day. Now, if I was in Cape Town, I would be joining them at the NCOP, where they will be reviewing what the National Assembly has done. And we will be saying there again, we say, go to the pit of hell, you Bella bill, and you funders, and so on. I know that is hard, but that's just how I feel about these people who are trying to remove the authority of the parents. Now, Marie was correct in saying that there is much more that meets the eye. When you look at the Bella bill, just look at those notes, those white, black notes on white pieces of paper, you might think, hey, but it's not so serious. Hey, do you know abortion is hidden there? Do you know sex marriage is hidden there? Do you know transgenderism? They are all hidden in this thing that government wants to do. They want to do that without parents having a voice. That's why we say this thing must be killed. It must not see the light of day. We oppose it, and we are trusting God that we are going to be victorious. All right. Now, as we are about to land with my colleague, I watched the news before coming here. One of the main items of discussions, and this you'll find on SABC, because SABC and Al Jazeera, I agree on most issues regarding what's happening in the Middle East, regarding Hamas and Israel. SABC are buddies with Al Jazeera. Okay, my apologies, Al Jazeera. So what are they saying now? They are talking about a ceasefire proposal that has been made, and Hamas has agreed to the ceasefire. And they are ready to sign, they have agreed. But Israel is refusing to sign. They don't agree with the ceasefire. It is important that all our members understand why Israel does not agree. They have not spoken to me. I read and I understand the importance of security. One of the last speeches I gave in Parliament, I said the international community is not serious about ending the war in Gaza. I said they can end that war those days, I said, within 2 to 3 weeks if they wanted to. And I said, for them to be able to stop the war, there are 3 basic things. When I read and research myself, 3 basic things that they needed to do in order for that war to come to an end. And interestingly, none of the 3, okay, maybe none of the 2 have been adopted. The third one, partly, okay. The one I say partly was about releasing all hostages. It is said that only 33 hostages are remaining. What they are not sure of is how many are still alive. So Hamas is saying they are ready to release all 33 hostages, dead or alive, okay? They're willing to release them all. But for every hostage that's released, Israel must release a minimum, not maximum, a minimum of 30 prisoners, children, women, and men. As long as you are arrested for terrorism by Israel, for every one hostage Israel is willing to release, Hamas is willing to release. Hamas is saying Israel must release minimum of 30 terrorists, 30 prisoners, minimum. So if Israel can agree to do that, and something that I know they don't agree with, to exchange people who have murdered their people, people who murdered innocent people, release them. Because Hamas saying, give me 30 of those guys you release and I release one. That's not fair. And the international community say, oh, applaud Hamas, at least they're willing to release the hostages. What about the conditions? Israel is saying, we do not agree with that. We are not going to release those people who murdered and raped. Some of them murdered and raped our citizens. Okay? The three things I said have to be done. Number one, all hostages must be released without conditions. Okay? Release them without conditions. Number two, tunnels, all tunnels that are in Gaza, some of them leading into Israel, they must be closed. All tunnels must be closed. Because even if Israel can say there's now a ceasefire, those guys will come in again through the tunnels and cause damage as they have done on the 7th of October. They don't want to talk about that. Nobody's talking about the tunnels. That must be shut down. But the third one, which I believe is the most important, until today, Hamas is refusing to accept the right of Israel to exist within safe and secure borders. They're refusing. They are still talking about annihilating Israel, removing Israel from the face of the earth. You know, their latest slogan now is a song they sing about all over the world. They say, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea. They are talking about the land between. So the land that is the state of Israel is in. So in other words, they are saying, we don't recognize Israel. We already see them as annihilated. We already see them all non-existent. From the river to the sea, no more Israel, no more Israel. Actually, we are told that some schools in Palestine don't have the map of Israel. They don't have it. That's what they want. Now they say Israel must release, must accept, rather. Israel must accept this condition or proposal for a ceasefire. And Israel is saying no. The right of Israel to exist must be accepted. Nobody has the right to remove from the face of the earth any group of people made by God. How you and I would feel if we have a neighbor in a person who says, I want to annihilate you and your family. You are my neighbor. I want to live, I want you to be my neighbor, but if I find an opportunity, I want to remove you and your family from the face of the earth. Ladies and gentlemen, let's just use common sense. Let us not allow hatred to blind us. You know, if a rapist can come buy a house next to yours, you are going to look for an opportunity to sell and relocate because you don't want that person to violate your family, to violate your wife and your children. You want that, you don't want that. But yet Israel is allowed. You hear the Minister of International Relations, you hear the President of South Africa saying they want Israel and Hamas and Palestinians to live as good neighbors. Good neighbors. When one is saying, I'm going to kill you, the president will not want to have a neighbor like that. The Minister of International Relations won't want to have a neighbor like that who's planning to kill you. So to be fair, let us say, for peace to accept that, Hamas and Palestinian Authority, they must accept the right of Israel to exist within safe and secure borders and who also have the right of self-defense. If we don't agree with this, then I promise you it is going to be futile. Everything we are doing is going to be futile. It does not matter where negotiations are taking place. This is fundamental. Everybody has the right to exist. Israel has the right to exist. Like any other government on earth, they must have the right of self-defense. The most important responsibility of any government is to secure its citizens. So let's continue praying that sanity will prevail, that those who truly want to see the end of war there, truly want to see the end of war, then Hamas must be pressurized to accept the right of Israel to exist within safe and secure borders. Well, the Lord bless you. That's all we have for you tonight. Continue praying for peace in South Africa. We are going to have elections on the 29th. There are some who are already talking war. If we don't have, or we don't get a 2/3 majority, there is going to be chaos in the land. May the Lord intervene. Let God arise and let his enemies be scattered. My dear friend, brothers and sisters, let's continue praying for peace in South Africa during elections and for the peace of Jerusalem. May God bless you. Good night. We will meet again next week at the same time, at the same place. Until then, God bless you. God keep you and protect you and your family. Good night.